Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Techospace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to welcome one of the most eminent and prominent person belonging to the Docker side and Azure DevOps side. And he's none other than Mr. Kasun Rajapakse, who happens to be the senior consultant of the company Avanade, and he's based out of Netherlands. And he's based out of Amsterdam, Netherlands, Europe. So, Kasun, off to you. So, why don't you introduce about you in depth to our listeners?
Yeah, so thank you for having me for this podcast. So my name is Kasun, as mentioned. So I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and I'm living in Netherlands for 2 years. So I'm working as a senior consultant for Avanade, and basically most of the time I work with Microsoft Azure and cloud technologies and Kubernetes and cloud native to tech stack. Yeah, in my free time I like to travel, so yeah, and watch some movies. Yeah, that's about me in short.
Amazing. That's great. That's
Yeah,
good to know. So Kasun, at the stroke of this hour, which is 8:01 p.m. Melbourne time, let's kick off
yeah,
with the podcast session. Yep.
yeah.
So now, Kasun, can you give me an overview of your tenure of being the senior consultant for your company, Avanade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actually, I joined Avanade 1.5 years back, but I work for IT industry for like more than 10 years now, right? So yeah, it's a quite good journey so far in this tech space. So especially in Avanade, I work as a senior consultant. So especially focusing on Microsoft Azure side and Kubernetes and cloud native side. So yeah, it's a good place for us to have a good place to meet very highly skilled people in Azure or cloud or Microsoft stack. So, and it's a good place for me as well to learn new things from other people and having a good network and connect with different people from different areas and learn from each other. Yeah. So far, it's so good. Yeah. It's a great place to work for me.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant to know, Kasun. Now, Kasun, I'm pretty curious to understand this. What gave you? Let's say, how was that situation like when you moved all the way from Sri Lanka to Netherlands? How did that transpire into?
Yeah, so actually, I didn't intend to come to Netherlands, but I had I was like I want to work in Europe, right? But I am not specially targeted in Netherlands, right?
Okay.
But when I am applying to different organizations, companies in Europe, uh, I got offer from LinkedIn. Do you like to come to Netherlands? So yeah, I
Okay.
told yeah. So then I told that yeah, sure, why not? Then that's how I came to Netherlands. So yeah, but I had like intention to come to work in Europe because I want to get that experience in working in Europe, right?
Okay.
So that is the starting point for to come to Netherlands. Yeah, but I didn't initially target it for you, Netherlands. Yeah,
Nice, nice. That's a pretty interesting one. That's a pretty interesting one to hear about.
yeah.
Now, in Sri Lanka, how did you, know about a particular, let's say, a cloud technology or let's say cloud architecture like Kubernetes or Docker? Like what went into that process
Uh, you mean in Sri Lanka?
in Sri
How
Lanka?
the yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, in Sri Lanka, a lot of organizations are using those tech stack,
Okay,
Azure and Kubernetes. Um, and in Sri Lanka, actually, it is a mix. That means some organization use multiple clouds, right? AWS and Azure mix.
okay,
Some especially use AWS. Some are pure with Azure. So but I see in Sri Lanka is if you are a big enterprise like using Microsoft technologies like Office 365, sorry, Active Directories in the organization, then they are usually more towards to the Azure side, because for them it is very easy to integrate with Azure and those kind of things, right? So because it's the same platform, right? Yeah, then when you come to the Kubernetes, also a lot of Sri Lankan companies are adopting Kubernetes, right? For example, in Sri Lanka, you have mm, Pick It's like a Uber in Sri Lanka, right? So
Okay.
they are very
Uh-huh.
heavily using Kubernetes for
Right.
their applications. So then there are a lot of other companies also adopting cloud native technologies and Kubernetes and Azure as well. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting to hear it from you, Kasan. But I mean, when you're talking about Sri Lanka, I mean, and the
Yeah.
way, and those insights related to the tech kind of side in Sri Lanka, that's pretty much like I'm hearing it for the first time. And what when you were talking about it, I find it very much relatable to the same thing that's happening in India.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
India, it's like tech is there, but again, Sri Lanka is also, on that same thing. So there is a connect between Indians and Sri Lankans on that.
Yeah. So because in Sri Lanka there are a lot of I think I'm like IFS
Yeah.
R&D is in Sri Lanka, so there are a lot of people are working there in Azure, Kubernetes, then all the other tech stacks. And if you heard about Cisco Lab, is also in Sri Lanka, most of the people. So there are a
Okay.
lot, they're very big tech industry in Sri Lanka. So yeah.
Nice, nice. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, Kasun, can you just mention me about your expertise with respect to Jet, Azure DevOps, and Docker products?
Yeah, so actually I work with Kubernetes, Docker, and those kind of things for like 7 years now. So uh, before 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 in 2000, I got interest in working with these areas in 2016, like kind of time. Then when I heard about Kubernetes, because in that time it is Kubernetes is very I think a very small project, right? It's getting the traction, right? So everyone is talking about Kubernetes, like containers, those kind of things. So I got interested, and I just tried it and I fall in love with it, and then I started to learn a lot of things about it, right? So
Okay,
then,
right.
then when you're working with Kubernetes, and then I had to learn with CI/CD pipelines. Then I need to work with Git. So it's a kind of a journey that I enjoyed a lot. Yeah. So then, when different times comes, different things are coming, different tools are coming, different technologies are coming. So I'm just adapting to that and learning those interested areas, which I really like. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, like, I'm a pretty novice to, a Docker, and there are certain people in my listeners also who would just like to know more about it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so would you like to, would you like to, explain the term about containerization and its working to me and our listeners?
Yeah, sure, sure. So, yeah, nowadays containerization is like, everyone is talking about it, right? So, yeah, it's if you take it like a very simple, very short, it's like a way of packaging your application together with everything that you need your application need to run, right? So, it's like a software package for if you work with like a Python or other, they have different packages for different tasks to done, right? So similar kind of a way, it is a con- uh, pre-built package that you can use to run your application, right? So for example, if you take analogy, so let's assume that I need to send some goods to different country, right? So then I need to
Mhm.
ship those things. Then what I can do is there are two ways that you can put it into the ship and just send it to the whatever the destination. But what you can do is you can order a shipping container, then you can put all of the things into the shipping container that need for your goods. Then you can package it and send it to the destination, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is a similar concept. So you put everything like operating
Mhm.
system binaries, then your application code, all the dependencies into one single package, and then you publish it to some like Docker Hub or whatever the
Right.
container image platform you prefer,
Yeah.
then you can use it from anywhere that can be
Okay.
accessed. So yeah, it's a
Nice.
simplest way I can. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Now, you were just talking about something like with respect to the technology, or let's say with commands. So I am pretty
Yeah.
interested to know that, when you're trying to, like let's say containerize an application, like what is the backend technology that is mostly used in this process?
Yeah, so when you talk about containerization, it is basically using Linux, right, in the backend, right? Linux C groups and Linux networking isolations, right? So then, because in containers we can have their own user spaces, namespaces, this kind of thing. So think the if you go to the backend technology, it is based on we work with LXCs, right? So the LXC is kind of similar thing, right? But I think containerization is there for a very long time, but
Right.
accessing it in the past is not easy. That means you have to be very it's not accessible easily, right? So you have to do a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what
yeah.
Docker does was they are creating a client on top of it, and as a user, you can uh, easily interact with those technologies in the Linux and like isolation, namespace isolation, C group, those kind of things, and you can create containers much more easily. Yeah, so that's how it's happened. Yeah.
Okay, okay. That
But
that
in the
gives
doc,
that act.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but in Docker, the in containerization deep, it's like isolation totally. So it has a separate process running on the containers, you separate users, like yeah. But there are options you can
yeah.
access to the host as well. Yeah,
That actually, explains the point to me. Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Now, I just heard a particular term in, with respect to Docker, I believe it's called image creation. So when it comes to image, I always come up with this picture that, it's a JPG image or a PNG image. But what exactly is the image creation in this particular, in this particular environment or
yeah.
process?
Yeah, so in containerization, image is based on OCI. OCI means Open Container Initiatives, right? So it's like a standard format that anyone can use. If you, for example, if you like to build your own um standard on product based on containers, then you can use the OCI. So it's a Open Container Initiative based. So image is like a uh, package that is all your application components like binaries, everything is baked into that specific image, right? So that image can use as like a blueprint or uh, starting point for your containers, right? So when you create a container, so when you run a Docker container, you have to specify the image that you need to run. So then the container will use that image as a reference, then connected with the operating system, and then it'll have all the binaries within that image. So for example, if you are running a .NET application, all the .NET binaries, if you when you build the image, if you put all the .NET compiled DLLs into the image, when you start the image, then if you start the container from that image, then if you log into the container and if you see the where the binaries, you can see that DLL files within the container. It's like a layered package, right? So kind of a thing, right? So we can create images by using Docker files if you are using Docker, or if you are using Podman, then you have the container files, right? So these a Docker file is a basically set of instructions. How do you want to build the image? So you can have base image, then if you want to update, then build the application, then copy file. There are a lot of commands you can do. Then at the end, you can specify what is the entry point and what is the CMD for that container, right? So then
Okay.
when you
Yep.
run the image, when you run the Docker file, we call it a build in the Docker file, right? So when you build the Docker file, you will create a Docker image, right? So then you can push that image into one whatever the image repository, then you can use it from different places.
All right. All right. Now, I mean, you were just mentioning a point called endpoint. So in image creation, how do you connect with respect to an endpoint? Like I'm trying to understand that particular term.
Yeah. So because uh, when your container starts, then usually in container you are using usually running one process, right? That means you don't have other processes that are running in the containers, right? So the endpoint in the image is the process that should run when the container is created from that image, right? So for
Okay.
example, if you are running Nginx, then the endpoint has to be the Nginx process that are running, right? Nginx
All right.
EX,
Yep.
whatever the process running, right? So if it is a .NET, then whatever the .NET command or the .NET DLL command and the DLL that are running, right? Based on the application, the the entry point will be changed, right? So it basically in simple terms, the entry point defines what should run when the container is started from that image. So it's a starting point for the container, right?
A starting point for the container. I
Yeah,
totally get the idea that, the image creation is like a blueprint. And actually,
yeah,
that totally sums up the point for me.
yeah.
Now, in your experience, I just wanted to understand like what are the key differences that you have identified, with respect to Docker and to that of Kubernetes.
Yeah, there are, yeah, the Docker and Kubernetes are like mentioned often live together, right? Because when a lot of people talk about Kubernetes, they are mentioned in Docker, right? So because that is true, because in the early stage of Kubernetes, actually Kubernetes run uh, with use of Docker, right? As a container runtime in Kubernetes, right? But I think from 120 or 121 version of Kubernetes, they remove the dependency of Docker. And now, if you have other container runtime platforms, then you can use it to run Kubernetes. But yeah, that's why people talk with Docker and Kubernetes more often, right? Yeah, so there are two different platforms, right? Even it is talk together, right? Because it's when it comes to the Docker, it's like a tool that you can use to build and run containers, right? So it's kind of an engine that you can use to package your application and distribute to the different registries and those kind of things, right? So basically, it handles the containerization in Docker perspective, and it do build in the images. Then you can run them. Then you can test them in locally in your local machine by using Docker Desktop or in your Linux machine. Then it is very simply lightweighted, and it's a good point to start in your learning container journey, right? But when
Okay.
Kubernetes is the orchestrate of containers, right? Because if you have uh, too many containers you need to manage by with Docker, it wouldn't be easy, right? For
Yeah.
example, if you have like multiple services, then if you need to make sure they are highly available, then networking, those kind of things,
Yep.
managing its scale is not easy in Docker, right? So then that's why Kubernetes come to the picture, and it's like an orchestrator for containers, right? So Kubernetes will give you like a lot of um, features and capabilities to enhance your containerized applications, right? So it doesn't Kubernetes will not replace Docker, but it's like a more like a an extension of Docker and
Extension
do
of
the
Docker.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like a orchestration of containers and those kind of things, right?
All right.
Yeah, so if you want to handle thousands of millions of containers, right, then Kubernetes will be the place because it's do load balancing, scaling, scheduling, self-healing, and service discovery, and lot of other things. Again, right? It's like a traffic controller, you know,
Traffic controller.
containers. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, I should not ask this particular question, but when just you have mentioned that, in Kubernetes, multiple containers can be handled. But for example, by chance, someone is trying to, to run multiple containers on Docker, like what is going to happen? Is the system going to crash or any problem is going to happen with respect to that environment?
No, no, it doesn't crash. Like you can run multiple containers in Docker as well, but yeah, but in Kubernetes it do differently because in Docker you are running containers individually. Then you need to make sure that these containers are individually properly managed. Right? You may need to run scripts to make sure that these are available all the time. You need to check these uh, pods are there, right? But yeah, but Kubernetes will make it much more easier because Kubernetes it has a concept like deployments and daemon deployments kind of a concept, right? So then you can specify in declaratively, we can specify the configuration like we need two replicas, three replicas of this application. Then Kubernetes will make sure that all these replicas and configurations are all synced up with the actual one, right? So, for example, if you have three replicas in Kubernetes, then one of these container died, right? We call it pods destroyed, right? Or something goes happen to that, then Kubernetes will automatically identify the hey this there's
Okay,
one
fine.
missing one, then it automatically recreate like self-healing the desired state, right? So Kubernetes always check the actual state and desired state mentioned and reconcile those things, right? But if you are running in Docker, that would be that can do, but it is a
Hmm.
lot of work be done. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, it's a manual work again.
manual
Yep.
work or that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? But yeah, that
Right.
in Kubernetes it is a bit
Yeah.
straightforward and easier than.
I totally get the point. Now, I mean, in DevOps, I've heard this concept like multiple times, and I'm pretty much very keen to understand this. Like, I mean, how would you differentiate between the virtual machine and the operating system? Like, I mean, in like side by side.
Uh, Operating system, yeah, operating system is kind of like a normal operating system we are working, right? So virtual machine is sometimes is a how can I say? Okay, let's take like operating machine, operating system. You mean operating system, right? Uh,
Yep.
yeah. So if you take operating system like Windows 2000, Windows Server 2000, like it's operating system, server operating system, right? So virtual machine is like creating a virtualized layer on top of that operating system, right? That means you are running another machine inside that operating system, right? So in operating system, you cannot do it without a virtualizer, right? So you should have a virtualizer to work to create a virtual machine in any operating system, right? So then if you are working with Windows, then you can use hypervisor or VMware. There are a lot of other virtualization platforms. So then you have to install that virtualization layer on the your host machine. Then by using that virtualization layer, then you can spin up multiple operating system virtual machines, right? Right. So we call the host machine, then the virtual machine which are created on top of the host machine, right?
All right.
So when you create a virtual machine, each virtual machine has their own operating system and it's isolated from the host machine, right? But it's connected with network and storage and those kind of things. You have more advanced stuff like connecting to the SANs and like creating virtual disk to attach to the virtual machines, and then you can attach network interface cards, and there are a lot of other things you can do. It's like virtual machine is like a isolated environment within another operating system within your operating system that you can use. So when you work with cloud platforms, most of the virtual machines are like that. So if you're working with Azure, then they have their own hypervisor that runs on the physical servers, right? So physical data center servers, right? So
Yep,
when you
yep.
request a virtual machine, then they will spin up a virtual machine within their host operating systems and create it for you. Mm.
That completely, answers my question for sure.
Yeah.
Now, now, Kasun, I'm, aware of the fact that, you have been, let's say, while you have achieved those titles of, while achieving the titles of, let's say, the Microsoft MVP for Azure, a Docker captain, and a Microsoft certified trainer, while looking back at those achievements, do you get that moment of pride like now?
Yeah, actually, I feel, I sense the pride that I done it, but mostly I got these things because of my interest and passion, interest and passion for the tech, the IT, right? So basically, these different titles has different meanings. So, for example, if I'm a show MVP, that is for community contribution for Microsoft, right? So because I like to share my experience and my knowledge with others. So because of that, I do a lot of YouTube videos, then help in forums, then do help to improve the products in
Right.
Microsoft. So
Okay.
those things are help me to share my knowledge with others and help them to grow as well. So most of these are related to community work in Docker Captain also, like community contributions, right? So MCT is for being Microsoft certified trainer is because I like to teach others the complex stuff in simplest way. So because of like I like to teach them, so that's why I got it. So yeah, it's always fun to uh, see that someone is always like giving me a uh, smile when someone is saying that I learned because of you. You learned.
Oh,
Yeah, I got a lot of when I do trainings, people say I got passed because of you. That kind of things are very small things will make you happy. So yeah, that's
that's a really a beautiful thing, that's a
yeah,
great compliment when people tell like, whatever
yeah,
I am doing, it's all because of you. And that really gives us an amazing, that pride. I would say you
yeah,
get pride when you hear those beautiful stuff
yeah, yeah,
from people.
yeah, yeah. So really, I'm humbled to have that kind of people with me. So I always try to help one another, like people who come, especially students who graduated recently, they will come and ask how I can get started with cloud or like a DevOps. So I tell them these are the things I have done. So these are the things you need to follow as well. Yeah, but yeah. So
Right.
I show them path. Yeah,
Brilliant, brilliant. That's good to know. That's a great stuff. Now,
yeah.
like Kasun, if we talk about your certifications, or let's say the things that you have been accoladed with, or let's say honored with. So, would you like to give me a deep insight of those cloud certifications that you have done and been honored with, like on the likes of CKA, CKS, CKAD, and HashiCorp?
Yeah, so yeah, I've done a lot of certifications. I started in 2015. I think I done a lot of Microsoft certifications as well. So if you're working with Microsoft technologies, then there are a lot of certifications you can follow based on your interest. So if you want to become a cloud architect, or if you want to develop or like um, yeah, like other cloud technologies, other Microsoft stack like Office 365, the Dynamics, there are a lot of Power Platform, SQL, database side. So there are a lot of certifications. So you need to pick up the whatever the path you like. So I mostly work with cloud technologies. So I have done 104, that is the administrator exam. So it is kind of a basic. If you are absolute beginner, then I would recommend to go with AC 900. It is actually fundamental exams, right? So then 104, that is the actual administrative exam. So it will get you the hands-on experience working with Azure. So you will play with Azure Portal, then and other Azure tools like CLI and ARM templates, Bicep, those kind of things. Then you will get your hand dirty by playing with the
Yeah.
platform, right? So then if you are a developer, then you have 204, that is especially for developers who like to work with Azure, right? So they have like uh, developing experience, right? How do you want to code for Azure, right?
Yep.
So then you have the architect exams like AC 304, no, I think 305, right? So then that is architect level. So it is purely most of the questions are scenario based. So you have to know the concepts and
Mhm.
we have to work with the shift sometimes. So because you most of the answers are almost similar, so but you have to select whatever the most appropriate answers for these questions, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
So yeah. Then when it comes to Kubernetes, that's the best exams I have done so far because those are not multiple questions, right? So those are totally hands-on. You are getting only the terminal and the documentation, but it's very time. It's what it's very. You have 2 hours, but when you do the exam, you will feel like I didn't spend 2 hours. It's like a 15 minutes because you don't feel the time will pass because that's how you have to be very. You have to be very hands-on and you have to be very like practical, really practical. So if you are doing CKD, CKS, then you have to be practice a lot because you don't have, even if you have documentation, you don't have time to watch the go and through before the
I
documentation.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have 20 questions, roughly it's about one question is about 2 minutes you can spend, right? But those questions are not multiple. You have to do it practically in terminal. Even editor is in you have to use Vim and terminal, so so you have to be very practical on that one. But it's a good experience for me,
Yeah.
especially CKS. It's really tough.
Right.
Uh,
Going by the toughness of the exam, or let's say the complexity of the exams, I'm pretty sure our listeners would definitely have this question that, Kasun, like in such a situation, if to handle such an exam, like what is that like what is that pre-preparation that we need to do? And suppose if we, flunk that exam, like how do we, how do we overcome from that particular thing? Like, it's pretty tough. And suppose you fail in that exam, like how do you again bounce back, to achieve
yeah,
this?
yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So preparing exam is depend on the people. So how do they experience, right? Because different people has different ways of preparing it, right? So, but if you already have worked with those technologies, then if you have a very good hands-on experience, then you can do within 2 weeks or kind of a thing. But it depends, right? So if you want to have a lot of if you have already a lot of experience, then you can easily do it. But yeah, if you don't have that experience, then you need to make sure that you cover all the exam areas and practice those things with really within Azure or some kind of a platform or whatever. If you're doing CK, then you need to have your own clusters and test those
Mhm.
things by your own self, right? So that is very important for you, right, to do, right? So then, yeah, I also failed a lot of exams in my past, right? Especially CKD, CKS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the normal. So if you want to do exam, you should. if you're failing is normal, I don't say it is a failure is a failure. Failing the exam is failure, right? It's like a learning curve, right, for you, right? So you know which areas you need to focus more on the next time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, you have to be then what you need to do is you need to brush up those areas, then retry it. Right? Even you fail it, then retry again. So it's a
yeah,
continuous thing you have to do, right? So
yeah.
no, I told a lot of people don't discourage by failing the exam. It's the normal thing.
The normal thing,
Everyone
exactly.
fails, right? So that's the thing for me. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. That's a very inspirational one, Kasun, that you have told about, and I'm pretty sure that our listeners also will get a little bit of a sigh of relief when they're probably attempting that particular type of exam,
Yeah.
based on Kubernetes, right? So
Yeah.
you just told me one particular point called clusters. Like, what do you exactly mean by the Kubernetes cluster?
Yeah, Kubernetes cluster is a set of nodes that combine the Kubernetes, right? So Kubernetes cluster, like so, Kubernetes is like it has different components, right? So these different components is distributed between multiple nodes, right? So then it's like a cluster means like a set of computes, virtual machines, right? Then working together uh, to deploy application and those kind of things. It's like a set of pool of resources. We can say that, right? So if you take a cluster, it's like a pool of resource. Like if you have three machines, then it works as a one single entity in that case,
All right.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so if you say Kubernetes cluster means it can have one node or 100 nodes or
Or
1,000
100
nodes. It
nodes.
depends. Yeah. So it has like a group of cluster, the group of resources, nodes, or kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah.
That actually gives me a clear idea about what a cluster is now for sure.
Yeah.
Now, heading on to this one, Kasun, like, would you like to, shed some spotlight to our listeners with respect to your blogs and social media channel? And one thing I'm pretty much acquainted with is Cloud with Kasun. So, when did that journey start about?
Yeah, I started it recently, my YouTube channel. So I like to sometimes I encounter some problems right when I'm working. So I like to make videos on that on how I overcome them. So then I have some tutorial like step by step guides. Or if there are some new features are coming to Azure and Kubernetes, Azure AK especially, or Azure related things, then I like to share those new features with the audience, right? Yeah, mm, that's basically my YouTube channels too. Other than that, I have my blog. It is Medium one, so it is kasunrajapakse.me. So there also sometimes I blog to like articles kind of thing, right? Yeah, those are basically most two things I am working on. Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. I mean, so like, what was the first blog that you wrote, Kasun? Like in your IT tenure?
Yeah, I had before my Medium blog, I have another blog which hosted on WordPress. So I can't remember that blog name, but the first blog name, but
Right.
something is related to Azure. So I maybe yeah. I think I started in 2016 or something like that. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's way back.
yeah,
I think 9 years
yeah,
back.
yeah. 9 years back. Yeah.
All right, all right. That's actually good to know, Kasun. Now, Kasun, like, I've actually come to know this. Like, I wanted to understand this, like, particularly, like, what actually encouraged you towards, speaking at different public events, like, like user groups, webinars, conferences, and when did you get that drive that you need to provide cloud training, specifically for your mentors and IT professionals? Like, when did these things, come about in your life?
Yeah. So I always like to talk with, do webinars like meetups and those kind of thing because I think it's a good way of sharing knowledge and connecting with different people around the community, right? So then, when you do in-person conferences and in-person meetups, it's a great place for you to increase your network and knowing different people have in different areas. So then you will learn something from new from them, and as well as they will learn something from you as well. So it's like sharing and caring, right? So I think
Yeah,
because in the yeah, so yeah, because when I was starting up, the community always helped me to um, learn new things, right? So then I think it's a giving back time for me. So
giving back. Yeah,
I like to give back what they offer. So then someone who still interest to learn, then they can learn from others, like community,
yeah.
like so. That's why I like most, and it's a good place to improve your speaking or your soft skills, as well as it's a good way to learn and having network, improve your network with people and with others. Yeah, that's that's why I usually do. Yeah, and I like to
Yeah.
yes, share the knowledge with others.
Okay, okay. Can I ask you this particular question, Kasun? Like, you just were telling that you really feel good when you teach people. So, is there any success story or use case in Sri Lanka where you actually, helped out one of your colleague or friend or someone back in your home
Yeah,
country with respect to, uh,
yeah, there are a lot of people. So yeah, I did when I was in Sri Lanka. I did classes, right? Microsoft classes, right? So official Microsoft Learning exam, the classes. So I when the class finished, then after they have sit the exam, they will message you, or they will talk to you through LinkedIn, saying that yeah, I passed the exam. So
brilliant.
because you helped me a lot. So yeah, that's good. So some people, I guide them to become to the IT tech, IT industries, right? IT platform, IT uh, tech uh, side. So they still tell me that when I mean, so yeah, because of you, I have chosen these things. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's nice. So when it came, did you do this teaching across Sri Lanka, or was it only, confined only to Colombo or, to your native place? Like where exactly
Yeah,
did
I
you
did only Colombo because it's hard to travel to other places, right? But in Colombo, I did a lot of
okay.
training in Sri Lanka. Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's good to know. Now, uh, Kasun, I just wanted to understand, like, what is your take on cloud architecture with that of Azure DevOps or DevOps, and what fascinated you towards DevOps on the whole?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to uh, the word cloud architecture and DevOps, it is like two sides of the same coin because it works together, right? So nowadays, when you work with cloud architecture, it's always come with DevOps as well, right? So when you talk about cloud architecture, it's about your infrastructure, then the compute, storage, those network, and that kind of stuff. So how you use them efficiently and securely, and those kind of things. So when the DevOps comes to that picture, it is how you do the automations, then how you do it to implement feedback loops, then how you increase the reliability of the infrastructure and the application, how speed you can deploy your application into the cloud infrastructure, right? So so now both of them work together. Um, Cloud architecture is like building the platform that you need. So DevOps is the culture and the tooling, how you can improve the efficiency and the deployment, and how you do how to automate security as well, because now you have DevSecOps as well integrated into the DevOps, right? So how do you identify
Mm,
security issues more, how do you say is in identify security issues more early than going to the production and identifying the security issue, right? Identify the issue in more early, right? So those kind of things are integrated into the now. So now when you work with cloud platforms, DevOps is obviously same, like integrated to each other.
all right.
Yeah. So for example, I can tell that if you want to deploy a case cluster, right? So that deploy your application, then you have the case cluster, right? Now you need to deploy the application, right? So how do you deploy the application, right? So then the DevOps comes. You have to build CI/CD pipelines. Then you need to implement monitoring. Then you need to implement application insights. Then other kind of things to monitor the application. Then you need to integrate security into the CI/CD pipeline to identify uh, vulnerabilities more earlier. So those things are come to the same picture.
Okay. All right. Now, I mean, that gives me a clear picture, and I totally understand. Like seeing your passion, I totally understand like why you're totally fascinated towards DevOps.
Yeah.
Now, Kasun, if I would just like to ask you this, like, I mean, which domain slash industry do you think DevOps is much more applicable to in Sri Lanka and to the current place in Netherlands?
I think nowadays DevOps is applied to many places, right? So in Sri Lanka also, a lot of people are using DevOps to also all to automate everything. So in DevOps, what we do is if there's any repeatable task that you are doing continuously, then you should automate it, right? So if there are anything you're doing repeatedly every day, then you should automate it, right?
Yep.
So if there are anything that you can automate, then you should automate it, right? Through the
Yeah.
DevOps,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So now I see that DevOps is coming to the data side as well as Power Platform, and then any all other sides as well. But yeah, I think it is coming to all the other platforms. I see, because in my current client, we do everything through pipelines. We don't have access to production environments at all, right? So we
Hmm.
don't have, so everything is done to the pipelines. So yeah,
Okay.
then if you want, if you see anything that you should automate, then you should automate it, right? So that if you
Exactly.
have see the repeated task, then you should automate it. Yeah.
Would you like to, give me an example with respect to a repeated task in a particular industry in Sri Lanka that you are, aware of?
Uh, yeah. So for example, if you want to if you want to do like some monitoring kind of things, then if you want let's assume that if you want to ship some logs from one place to another place, right? So then you it is like a repeated one, so you need to do every hour or every day, right? So then what you can do is you can use some kind of a CI/CD pipeline, then you can schedule it to the same thing to do that one, right? So then you don't want to do
Yeah.
manually, right? So then it is much more easier than doing it manually.
Agreed. I mean, I get the complete understanding that you're talking about the environments and you're talking about the logs that has to be repeated. When I'm talking about industries or let's say domains, I totally mean by the fact that is it like a public sector company or is it like a chemical company or something that's related to an energy company. Any of that kind of a use cases that you have seen in Sri Lanka in your home country
Using DevOps, right?
using DevOps? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. like as I mentioned, so some companies like public, yeah, we had a, I think we had a public situation, public company like I think when in 2022 we had like crisis situation, then we had some issues with uh, fuel. So when we need to use some quotas for each people, so they are
Right.
using cloud like platform to build that system. Then I think they have used a lot of CI/CD pipelines and Kubernetes and those kind of things to build that system. So then I think they have used a lot of monitoring as well
Yeah.
because after they release within one day, I think the user count increased to millions, right? So they need to have scale their application. They need to monitor the application. So that's one scenario. And private sector, yeah, there are a lot of people are using like I think Pygmy is one of them. So they are
Hmm.
heavily using CI/CD automation and monitoring. So they are using Kubernetes, very large Kubernetes clusters. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, yeah,
That's brilliant. Now, I mean, I was talking about Sri Lanka. Now, in Netherlands, do you see the extensive use of DevOps by different industries, or is it
yeah,
just picking up
definitely.
now?
Yeah. So in here, everyone is using DevOps
Okay.
technologies. Yeah. So even, but I see in Sri Lanka, a lot of finance companies are still a little bit resilient to go to the cloud, right? Because still
Okay.
they have that fear of uh, data that will be not safe in the cloud. But when it
Yep.
comes to Netherlands, uh, all the big banks and everything is going into the cloud. So they are
Nice.
they are moving their whole data centers into the cloud and they are using DevOps heavily. So a lot of automations, a lot of monitoring. Like, yeah, they are very big in here. Mm.
After you were just telling me that, Sri Lanka is adapting to a lot of cloud kind of a situation, or let's say cloud architecture, right? I feel
Yeah,
that the tech team in India and the tech team in Sri Lanka probably they'll collaborate on projects. I
yeah,
feel this.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just
yeah.
visualizing
They do.
it like
Yeah,
that.
they do.
It's going to be
So
really interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. So yeah, it's happened. So sometimes in Sri Lanka, some teams are from because sometimes there are different skill sets, right? So sometimes different consultants they come from India or other countries that who are
Okay.
specialized in that area, right? So yeah, that can happen. Yeah, based on the projects. If it is a big project, then
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
people will collaborate from different areas and do the project. Yeah.
Unique. I mean, there's always a collaboration of India and Sri Lanka on IPL on the cricket field.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
cricket. Yeah,
now on the tech side also the collaboration is going really strong. That's pretty
India.
good,
Yeah,
pretty nice, pretty good to
nice. Yeah.
hear. Yeah. So, Kasun, before we actually, conclude this podcast session, let's take a lighter route. All this while, I was just asking you questions about, the cloud architecture, about Kubernetes, about Docker, and about your journey, and about how you have thought, the cloud architecture things to the people back in Sri Lanka. Now, we're gonna go to a pretty lighter route, and we're gonna be talking about your likes and interests.
Yeah, sure. That's good.
And we're going to come up with a very quick rapid fire round. Yep. So Kasun, like, what is your favorite sport? Is it cricket or is it football?
I would say football, but yeah, because I from the beginning I like football. Yeah, football is yeah, that's
Okay.
my favorite sport. Yeah.
Who's your favorite footballer of all time?
I like Ronaldinho because he's like
Okay.
one of the best. Yeah, but there are a lot of people, right? But I like Ronaldinho because he's a very talented
Stylish
player.
player.
Yeah, you can watch like 100 hours of his dribbling and those kind of things. No one can do that.
There's always one word people use on social media. It's called OG. And I feel Ronaldinho is also one of the OG.
OG, yeah, OG guys, yeah, that's Ronaldinho, Zidane, then Ronaldo, original Ronaldo, not
Yes,
the
Brazilian
Portuguese
Ronaldo. Yeah.
Ronaldo, Brazil Ronaldo. Those are like OG people. Yeah,
Awesome, awesome. That's nice. So, I mean, if I have to, ask you this, like, what is your favorite Indian food that you like to eat?
I eat a lot of Indian food. So, I like dosa, right? So
Okay,
masala dosa I like. Then a lot of South Indian foods because in Sri Lanka we have like vade, then those
okay,
kind of things, paratha and those kind of things. Yeah, I like those things. Yeah.
nice, nice. So, what is your favorite, holiday destination?
Okay. In Europe, I like to go to Switzerland, but I didn't go yet.
Okay,
But I had to go there, right? So in Sri Lanka, I
okay,
would say like the beach side. So like Trincomalee, then Batiklo, then Gold, those kind of areas. Oh, the Nuwara. Yeah, it's a cool climate. Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. Now, like, what was the last picture, let's say, last film that you have watched?
Last one I watched, I remember that one. Okay. Um, I can't remember, but I think I can't remember because I watched a lot of movies. So yeah, the one I think Brooklyn. That's a good one. Yeah, I think that's the
What was
one.
that?
Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's like la- a drama movie. Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of movie.
That's good. That's good. So, finally, thank you so much, Kasun, for making
Yeah,
time
no,
and
it's
being part of this beautiful podcast initiative. Finally, our collaboration actually has been transpired into this amazing day, and
yeah,
I really had a great conversation with you. Talking about cloud architecture, about Docker, which I really personally like to know more about, and Kubernetes again. And then the way you started your journey, the way you have been accluded with different certifications, the way you help people, with respect to the cloud architecture and, making a difference to the society. Like you have learned a lot and now it's your time to, return it back to the mentors who have, taught you. So that is a beautiful, beautiful initiative. So thank you once again, Kasun, for,
yeah, no,
taking time to be part of it.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. So it always pleasure to work with uh, others. So and it's thank you for having me in this podcast as well. I
Awesome.
really
Awesome.
enjoyed it.
Right, right. So, listeners, before we actually conclude this podcast episode, I would recommend each and every one of you to subscribe to Kasun's channel, Cloud with Kasun. Any doubts you have with respect to cloud architecture, you feel free to reach out to Kasun, and Kasun is always available on LinkedIn, and his name goes by Mr. Kasun Rajapakse, and you could reach out to him, and he will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Nice.
I'll share the I mean the channel name of Kasun down in the podcast link, and you can just have a look at that. So, listeners, on this note, this is your host Akhil Navluri signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode with another industry leader very soon. So till then, take care, keep listening, goodbye, stay tuned, and au revoir. Thank you.